Hi out there, everybody. Now we're going to do a little short on our last
Spotlight in the
little
darkness.
spotlight in the darkness because, yeah, the spotlight will be on a guy by the name of Elbridge Gerry.
Gary.
Gerry, yeah, Elbridge Gerry, who became known as Gerry because of gerrymandering, and that's what we discussed. So, what we can tell you a little bit, and we did some research, is that Elbridge Gerry actually was from Marblehead, Mass, outside of Boston. It's a big fishing town. If you ever been up there, St. Gloucester.
He was
So
born in 1744.
1744. So if you ever see the movie Perfect Storm, the guy's like, "Are we Gloucestermen?" Well, Marblehead is like literally like right next door to Gloucester,
Yeah.
so it's part of the fishing fleet of the world. So yeah, he was born in 1744. He graduated from Harvard with a bachelor's at a very young age, like 14, which is insane. In 1762, he completed his master's in
And
1765.
he was educated at home prior to that.
Yeah, he was homeschooled, and
Yeah.
he was the
Well, I think
family.
most people were back then.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
wasn't really a lot other than him going to Harvard. There probably was no real private institutions.
Right.
So, he was the family of wealthy merchants. So, and that makes sense because Marblehead, part of Gloucester, part of like the sailing tradition.
Well, he got
It would
his
make sense.
Harvard bachelor's in 1762, and then he continued for his master's in 1765. So, yeah, he was very educated at a very young age.
Yeah, he was outstanding as far as speaking out against taxation without representation. So he's considered very much a great patriot, part of the revolutionary movement. Um, I believe how he got into it was he basically how could I see?
He sat on a committee in Marblehead in 1770 to endorse bans on importation of tax products from Great Britain because he didn't believe in the taxation of it. But you have to remember, he's a merchant. So many of his customers, his biggest customers were Spain and France. So this directly impacted his business. So you can see why he would be in opposition to this.
Yeah, and one of his big claims of fame was he was always the guy that was supplying like weapons. He was supplying munitions and weapons to the ships and to the basically the rebellion.
Yeah,
So
and
that's
he used those Spanish and French connections to get those weapons too,
yeah,
if I remember
yeah,
right.
he had like connections with people who weren't always the most savoriest types, probably pirates as well. But yeah, he was a guy
We're
who
speculating.
yeah, we're speculating there, but he was not a political creature. He kind of opposed political parties. He really wanted to maintain a balance in government, and he was the only person that was a signer that I don't think he signed the Declaration of Independence, though, did he? He like
Yeah, he did.
refused.
He was
Oh,
a
he did.
signer.
He did sign
Well,
it.
he had declined the first Continental
Oh,
Congress
that's what it
because
was.
his father had died.
Oh, okay.
Um,
So he did sign it, but he's the only signer buried in Washington D.C.
right,
All the rest of them were buried somewhere else.
right. He's
He's
the
in
only one.
D.C.
And then he um was appointed to the Continental Congress again in 1776, which this time he joined. And he was actually very instrumental in getting the Declaration approved because it had to have 100% um, like consent. Like it couldn't, it wasn't voted in by a majority. It had to have everybody that was part of this Congress to be in approval because the Declaration of Independence was considered an act of treason. So they couldn't. It was either you're all in or they're not doing it type thing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's sort of who he was. But he was, I believe, he was the governor in Massachusetts when the whole gerrymandering thing came up, and they wanted political representation, and this is where it all gerrymander came about. They
Well,
basically cut out a district.
before you go
Oh,
that,
okay.
let's talk about what he stood for
Okay, go
before
ahead.
he became the governor of Massachusetts. Because I think he was a governor of Massachusetts and then became the vice president, right?
Yeah, he was the vice president at one point. I
Yeah,
forget I think it was the was it Monroe or Madison? It was one
I
of
think,
those administrations. It
yeah,
wasn't Jefferson
right.
and it wasn't Adams. I believe it was either Monroe or Madison is who
Right.
he was the vice president
So
under.
he believed in limited central government, civilian control of the military,
Mhm.
which makes sense, really. And he initially opposed political parties at all, but because of situations that happened to him, because of the Federalists and some of the loyalists, he really, I would say, got kind of worked over by both sides. He actually became a member of the Democratic Republican Party. So that's how he won his governorship of Massachusetts. And I'll let Chad continue.
Oh no, I was just gonna say. So he won the governorship of Massachusetts, and they basically wanted some kind of representation in the House, not the state house, like the state of Massachusetts being represented in the Congress. So they made this really weird looking district, and it was in the shape of like a salamander.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like. So how he got the name and his claim to fame, I mean, no one remembers him as the vice president, was Gerrymander
You're
because
gonna
it
hear the
was yeah,
dog bark in a little bit,
yeah.
so
So you heard you see the salamander, and it was created out of a block or cut out of a block of land, and it looks like a salamander, and like, well, Jerry did it, and then it became he made this district, and it looks like a salamander, and then the name Gerrymander stuck forever, and it's been that way ever since, and now that's why we have districts that
well, and it was
look
it
like
was
Bullwinkle's ears, or look like a shoehorn, or look like a
it
horseshoe.
was newspaper, like, columnists that actually gave him the name,
The
and
name,
they
yeah,
came up with the name gerrymandering because they took his name, but it was gerrymandering at the time because his last name is
yes,
Gary.
Gary, yeah,
And they took it looked like a salamander, so they were making a joke, so they called it gerrymandering, and that's what the columnists, accused him of doing, even though really it was his party that kind of, I would say bullied him into signing into action because he really said that he found it, extra highly disagreeable, like, he
yeah. He
really
wasn't
didn't
digging it when he passed
wanna
it.
do it.
He kind of like had to hold his nose to get it done, but hey,
And I
it's
think it's
politics.
important to note that he helped broker the Great Compromise, which gave us the House and the Senate, when when they were formulating the government, when they were after we had won our independence and they were formulating the government. He was instrumental in that, and he was taught politically under Samuel Adams,
Yeah,
who was
surprisingly,
actually a big political mind at the time. He kind of took him under his wing and really showed him the ropes of you know there's a way the Bible calls it coming in and going out. You have to learn to come in and go out. And what that means is you learn to conduct yourself around people in certain spheres, political spheres, business spheres, whatever it is. And so Eldridge Gerry was a businessman. He had to learn to become a politician, and this is where Sam Adams came in. He taught him
yeah.
that how to become a
Well,
politician.
how to play the game
Right.
and how to brew really good beer. So
And it's
really
interesting, a lot of our founding fathers, they had careers that they, momentarily left to partake in politics, and then they went back to their careers. You don't see that in our government anymore. What you see
no, they stay
is
there
is
forever and they
career
make money on it.
politicians that have never held a job in their life. So, these are types of things that, when we think about the formation of our government, we really need to remember that the intention was never for these people to make
To
a
be there
lifetime
forever.
in
Yeah.
politics.
It was only supposed to be for a couple years, and then you went back to your business. So, Franklin was Franklin. He was a philosopher. He was a printer. He was an inventor.
He was a
Uh,
lot of things.
yeah, he was jack of all trades. But many of them were business people, farmers, farm owners, doctors,
Plantation owners,
lawyers.
which
Yeah,
is
yeah, yeah,
basically
yeah, basically,
farmers.
yeah. And they didn't stay in the Congress for 50 years.
So as much as we are not fans of gerrymandering, I don't think that this man was a fan of it either.
Hmm.
But I think he got hamstrung into signing it into law.
Well, yeah,
Um,
he was go along to get along. So,
and
it's
yeah,
the day age old political thing, and that's
and
what
it
happened.
and it really became a sneaky tool of control and manipulation.
Yeah.
Is really what it has become.
Yeah, and it's just been abused
And
ever
so,
since
what was
then.
the quote that he was known for? Did you write it
It was
down?
like duty of a man one day to live to God of his country,
It
and
is the
it's
duty of every man, though
yeah,
he may have but one day to live, that he devote that day to the good of his country.
of his country. So, unfortunately, guys, a lot of people are not giving their good to the country anymore.
Right, and unfortunately, this
Those
man
days
is
are
known
over.
for this one awful thing, but he has done so much good for our country. He is one of the architects of how our government runs in a lot of good ways.
Yeah.
So, everybody makes mistakes, and sometimes some people's mistakes live for a long time.
Yeah. Well, Benedict Arnold is one of them. So, so anyway, but
So,
thank you for listening in on that on our little spotlight.
yep, that's our quick spotlight on Eldridge Gerry, and we thank you for joining us, and we hope you have a fabulous weekend.
God bless.
Thank you.
Take
Bye
care.
bye.
Bye bye.